Welcome back to the Basics Basic. We are here to pick out my September TBR, and I am very excited for this. I love a TBR spin. This is my second time recording it. I've been doing TBRs for a year, maybe more, just for myself, and I keep track of all of them on my phone. And then I started recording them when I started my YouTube channel, and it is so much fun to like spin it and talk about it, because usually it's a very silent process when it's just been me. And so having like people to share my picks with, and then some of y'all commented that you loved The Night Circus and different books from my last TBR wheel spin. So I'm really excited to do this again. To go over last month's TBR, we completed 4 out of 6 of the books. So I did not accomplish everything I wanted to, but that's okay. There's grace for that, and reading is meant to be fun, and I had a fun month reading while I could. I knew going into October, oh my gosh. I knew going into August that I was going to have quite a full month and busy month. August and September are my busiest month of 2025, and so I did not expect to complete everything. So the fact that I even completed 4 of these is very impressive to me. I am hoping for September to be very easy, bingeable reads. I'm hoping that I spin categories that feel very easy to accomplish. Some of the spots I only have 1 book left, and so there's a very specific book that I would need to read to fill that spot. And then others of them, like the alphabet challenge, I could pick pretty much any book I wanted because there are still a lot of spots left. I should say, of the books I did read for my August TBR, all of them are 4 stars and above. So it was a good TBR. I'm hoping this TBR will be equally as good. I'm really excited to pick out some books again. Without further ado, let's get to it. We are going to spin the wheel. Here it is. I guess I should turn the volume on. No. I'm nervous about this. I'm not gonna lie to you. I have no idea what book series I want to read. I'll have to think about this. I have been putting off this category for so long because I don't know what to pick. I am in the middle of so many series right now, and I have read just one of a series. And so I don't have a ton of series that I'm excited to read that's more than 4 books that I haven't at least started. I'm not really sure where to go. Initially, I was thinking of reading Lady Hardcastle because I've heard those are really fun. They're pretty easy to read. But then I found out there were 12 of them. And I'm just not sure I can fit 12 Lady Hardcastles in 1 year, which would be over 1 Lady Hardcastle book a month since I'm already almost 2 months into this challenge. So I don't know, that feels like a little intense, especially since I've not read from that author before. Like, what if I hate them? I don't know. So then I was also thinking about reading Narnia by C.S. Lewis, which I read as a child. Like, my dad read it to me while we would do the dishes in the kitchen. So I thought about revisiting that because I haven't read them in so long, and I'm not even sure I've read the full series. So I'm interested in doing that. There are 7 books in that. They're all shorter. It feels very realistic that that's something I could do, but I'm not confident that's my choice. The other option I've thought of is the Thursday Reading Club by Richard Osman. And I actually only know him from Taskmaster, which is kind of funny, but I love that show. So potentially I could read that as well. I'm not really sure. Maybe I'm just gonna make the executive decision that I can start a series, and then if I realize I don't like it, I don't need to count it as the first in a series. Like, I don't need to read the full thing, because I think that's where I'm a little stuck. It's like I need to read 1 to know if I want to finish it. Like, I'm in the middle of this series right now, the Throne of Glass series. I need to read Heir of Fire, but like I can't count it towards the series because I already have read the first. Well, I've read 3 because I started with Assassin's Blade, which controversial, I know. I have forgotten about a series that I'm very excited to read and actually currently own the first book of, and that is The Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. I have had this book. It is such a long book. I have had this since Christmas. My brother-in-law gave this to me, and I have wanted to read it forever. He has wanted me to read it forever, and I think it's time. I think this is, in fact, the series we commit to reading for this challenge. I am intimidated by this, but I have loved Brandon Sanderson's writing. I have read 2 of his standalones from the secret projects that he published. I read Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, and I've also read Tress and Emerald Sea, and both of them were above 4 stars. Maybe it's time to dive deep into the fantasy world with the Stormlight Archive. I have known about this series for a long time, and I think it's my time. I was kind of thinking I'd read Mistborn before I read this because that's only 3 books and that feels a little bit more palatable just before I deep dive in, but the series says it has to be 4 or more books to be counted as a full series, so we are going to be doing the Stormlight Archive as book number 1 of our September, what's called TBR. Yes. Also, I'm missing a book, hold on. I had to put the rest of my books in because I saw we were missing some, so putting them away. Our next pick is... Ooh, spell your name. I can do this challenge. There are a lot of spots that are still needed to be filled on this category, so this feels very manageable. I'm excited to pick a book for this, so let's see what we should pick. The spots I have left are SARHCKP, I think. I could do so many different books for this. I'm trying to think about what I would just like to read. I could do The Great Alone, which would have a K for Kristen Hanna. Would also have an A for Alone. Tuesdays with Maury, and I could do the A from Album in one of the A slots. Practicing the Way by John Mark Comer. P for Practicing in the title. And we read Loveology by him not that long ago, so it could be good to read another. We could also read the pinkest book on my shelf, which is the Period Repair Manual. I am so excited to read this, actually. I think I'm going to love this. It is a holistic look at periods and feminine health and hygiene, and I have a lot of opinions about women's health, and I think that we are not, at least in the US, I don't think we're taught as much as we could and should be about how to take care of ourselves and what's actually happening to us and to our bodies. And I've heard this is a phenomenal book, just giving you kind of the science behind a lot of things without it reading like a textbook, I guess. So I could do this for P as well. So we have 4 options. I'm gonna take out Tuesdays with Maury. Okay, as much as I want to read both of these, I think I'm going to pick The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. I have a friend who's been begging me to read this forever. I love Kristen Hanna. I'm kind of in a Kristen Hanna mood, and I'm ready to take this on. We are officially adding Great Alone to the September TBR. On to the next. Okay, this I can do. I have 2 categories left for this. So I have the zoo animal and the domestic animal that I still need to fulfill. Part of me wants to do domestic because it'd be really easy. There are a lot of options I could pick from, but I do know exactly which book the zoo animal is going to come from, so maybe I'll just pick that. Immediately off the bat, my mind goes to The Zookeeper's Wife, which honestly, I don't really know anything about. I'm pretty sure it's historical fiction around the Holocaust, and there's a zoo. So I'm assuming there's a zoo animal in this. And I've had this book for years, and I've been meaning to read it for years. So this could be a good one to read. I'm trying to think of what other books even have animals that I know about from the back of them. I'm pretty sure this has an animal better than the movies because there's a dog on the back. So that could also be fun. I low-key would love to read this. I've heard such good things about it. I'm pretty sure I actually did read this when it first came out, but I don't really remember the details of it, so this is one I'd like to read as well. I will read The Zookeeper's Wife, but I think for September I need to pick better than the movies because I think this is just the type of book I can binge when I'm on my flights to the different weddings I'm going to. We have a lot of destinations this month, and I just think this is going to be what I'm looking for after really long weekends that I have up ahead. So, better than the movies, going on the TBR. I couldn't figure out which that was going to be. This one feels easy. I have intentionally left the 2 spots left on the genre challenge open. One is fantasy and one is romance, and those are genres I typically read a lot of. So this feels like a very easy option. I could pick quite a few books for this category. I'll have to think about it. I have a few directions I can go for this. The only 2 spots we have left to fill are fantasy and romance. And I have a few books I've been eyeing that I'd love to get in. So one of them is Things We Never Got Over. It's such a pretty cover. I'm not sure how spicy this is. I'm not much of a spicy book girly. Oftentimes I can just skip stuff, but it's a long book, but I feel like it'll be a quick read, if that makes sense. And the runaway bride factor is just really enticing to me. I love the concept of someone being a runaway bride and then just showing up and suddenly being in charge of the niece they didn't know they had. I feel like that is just such a gripping, compelling narrative that I've never heard of before. And so this is a contender. Another contender is fantasy, and that is The Heir of Fire. Heir of Fire by Sarah J. Maas. This is the next book in the Throne of Glass series. I think this is book 3. So it's book 3 if you don't count the prequel, The Assassin's Blade. But this is intriguing to me. I could easily be convinced to read this. Since we are already reading The Way of Kings this month, which is a fantasy book, I think I'm going to hold off on Throne of Glass series for now, just because both of these books are very long, and that would be a lot to read in 1 month. Which, granted, I've done it before, I'll probably do it again, but I like to set myself up for success. And so I think giving myself a romance and something a little bit less political and intense might be the better move. So we are going to put Things We Never Got Over on the TBR for September. All right, we have Elemental again. And we had Elemental last time. We picked Under the Tuscan Sun, and I was very excited to read that, and then I did not read that. So maybe I'll pick that again. Maybe I'll do something different. I'll have to think about this. The question is, do I put it back on the TBR this month and hope that I will get to it? Or do we commit to a different one and just come back to this when I'm excited for it? I actually need to figure out if this book is set in the fall, because I do need to read a fall book in fall for my seasonal category, and I feel like this might be one. So I might keep this off until the fall so I can utilize that, which leaves me with the air category, which I've picked out When Breath Becomes Air to read, or fire category, which is You Killed Me First. And I think I'm gonna go with You Killed Me First. I'm really excited to read that. I could use a thriller on my TBR. We currently have young adult, we have historical fiction, we have fantasy, we have romance. Might as well add a thriller and just keep the categories going, having many different genres to pick from. I also think that might help me because last time I had a lot of the same genre on my TBR, and so maybe having a more diverse genre will help me get through more of them. Last but not least, here we go. That's awkward. I already did that one. We're gonna have to spin that again. Oh, good. I can do this. This is exactly what I wanted for this month. And I actually had my favorite 3 read last month as well. And I just love rereading books that I know I love. Let me just pull out some of my favorite books and we can go from there. Actually, the first one's By My Bed. This is the Guernsey Literary and Potato Pie Pie Society. This is one of my favorite books of all time. I have read it many times. The pages are well loved. Me and my sisters actually read this fairly often because it's kind of our sister book, if that makes sense. It is about a woman who has just come out of World War II, and she finds herself on the island of Guernsey because she has been pen pals with a pig farmer there. The entire book is epistolary, so There are telegrams, there are letters, there are journal entries. It's really interestingly written. It's very fun. The characters are so lovable. And I have enjoyed reading this every single time I've read it. So we may need to, maybe time to reread a favorite. So that's our first option. Another option would be Magic Hour by Kristen Hanna. Granted, I do have a Kristen Hanna book on my TBR already. From what I remember about this book, it is about two sisters, one of whom I believe finds a girl in the woods. I think she's a police officer or something like that. And the other sister is a child psychiatrist who has just gone through a pretty career damaging crisis. And so they end up finding this girl, and the girl's name, I think they call her Alice. I don't think she says her name because this girl is not speaking. She's not communicating. I think she's acting kind of wolfish, and she's very standoffish. And so this book is about these two sisters becoming connected again because they've been estranged for years, and also their interactions with this child who is now in their care as they're trying to figure out who she is, where she came from, and what her story is. So, beautiful book. I remember sobbing through it as per every Kristen Hanna book ever. This is The Princess Bride. I read this in one sitting when I was in high school and laughed my way through it. I had such a good time with it. It's written as though it's an adaptation, but it's not. It is the full book, and it'll reference the manuscript and they'll say oh, it was too long, here's a summary. But the author just is saying that. He's acting as though he's adapting it, but in reality he's not. So I remember it just being very unique. I hadn't read many books like this, and so this could be another contender as well. If you haven't seen the movie, it is about this girl who is engaged to this prince that she doesn't want to be engaged to, and her love of her life disappeared, and she's assumed that he is dead, and all of a sudden she gets kidnapped from her princessness engagement. She's not married to the prince yet, but she gets kidnapped, and it's about her journey of looking for her love that she assumes is dead and figuring out what in the world is happening to her. Lastly, we could read Just for the Summer. I read this book last year, maybe my favorite book last year. It's by Abby Jimenez, an author who rarely fails me, and this book is so weirdly like my life, more than I'd care to admit. Similar to this girl character, I have regularly gone on dates with guys who will end up dating and sometimes even marrying my roommate. And so she has this tendency to keep being the person someone dates before they get married. She is on Reddit and finds this guy who has the same exact experience, and they decide to date just for the summer so that they can cancel out each other's curses. And that is the premise of the book, but it is so much more than that. I remember reading this and loving every second of it. It was so beautiful. It was so powerful. I would love to read this again, actually. And I recommend this to a lot of my friends, and a bunch of them read it this summer and have loved it. So of the 4 books I have here, I think it's going to be Just for the Summer. I need a beach read. I need something easy. Granted, this isn't a sappy beach book. It's got a lot of depth to it and more than you would expect from the cover. But I think this is what I want to read. I'm excited about this. I love all of these books. There's nothing here I would be sad to read, but I think this is what is calling out to me. So we're adding Just for the Summer as the last book on my TBR. And that is our September TBR. I'm really excited to see what we get done. We have a lot of pages to cover. These are long books, so we'll see how successful I am. But for now, keep resting, keep reading, and I will see you soon.